You know, after more than 30 years working with patients over 50 here in the United States, I've come to realize a truth that has kept me awake many nights. A stroke doesn't always strike like a bolt of lightning. Sometimes, it knocks so gently that we barely notice it. I want you to imagine this. You're sitting with your morning coffee, sunlight coming through the window, everything calm and familiar. Then, suddenly, one arm feels weak just for a few seconds. You take a deep breath, shrug it off, tell yourself, probably slept wrong, and you go on with your day like nothing ever happened. But to me as a physician, those 60 seconds might be the loudest warning your body will ever give you. Here in the U.S., a stroke happens every 40 seconds. Every 40 seconds, just like the ticking of the clock hanging on your living room wall. And what breaks my heart is that half of those people had early warning signs, but they ignored them. They thought they were strong enough. Or they simply didn't want to bother anyone. I once had a patient, Mr. Charles, 72 years old. He told me that one day while watching baseball, his vision suddenly blurred for about a minute. His wife panicked and wanted to call 911, but he laughed it off. "Honey, I'm old." Blurry eyes come with the package. 2 weeks later, he suffered a real stroke. He survived, thankfully. But the smile he once had was never quite the same because one side of his face stayed partially paralyzed. You see, the body always speaks. We're just not listening. When I talk about early signs of stroke, I don't want to list them like a textbook. I want to share them the way I've seen them through real stories, real moments, real people who walked into my hospital. Have you ever felt one side of your body suddenly weaken? Not the numbness from sitting too long, but a strange, unsettling sense that your arm or leg isn't obeying you anymore. Many of my patients describe it as holding a cup, but your hand doesn't seem to realize it's supposed to hold anything. Or maybe your face droops a little, you try to smile, but your mouth just can't follow the cue. Or speech becomes hard, your thoughts are still clear, but the words come out twisted, like a radio with bad reception. Some people tell me they felt a sudden dizziness, as if the floor shifted beneath them. Others say their vision blurred for a few seconds, like a thin fog rolled over their eyes. And sometimes, it's a headache sharp, sudden, and unmistakably different from any headache you've ever had. These signs, whether they last 30 or 60 seconds, are not random. They are warnings. They are your brain's desperate message that blood flow is failing, that a vessel might be blocked, and that you are now racing against the clock. I want you to pause and ask yourself, if this happened to me, would I recognize it? Would I take it seriously? Many patients tell me they don't want to make a fuss. They don't want to call for help over just a moment of dizziness. But stroke doesn't care whether you're polite or embarrassed. It cares about time. And in medicine, we say time is brain. Every passing minute can cost millions of neurons. What I want to leave you with isn't fear, it's awareness. Your body has been your companion for more than half a century. Treat its warnings with respect. So if one day you feel something unusual even for a moment, remember this older doctor named David who once sat here and told you, don't ignore it. Don't assume you're fine. Let a professional check it. You are worth protecting. Because sometimes, those tiny moments decide the entire path of the life still ahead of you. Let me paint you one more picture. If the heart is the engine that keeps you alive, the brain is the control center, nature's most delicate masterpiece. But ironically, it's fragile. Just a few minutes without enough blood, and millions of brain cells die forever. They don't regenerate. They don't come back. I still remember a cold winter morning, so cold that everyone wanted to stay under the covers a bit longer. One of my patients, Martha, 68, felt her face go numb and her left leg weaken. She thought, maybe it's just the cold making my body stiff. And she hesitated. 15 minutes later, when her family found her and rushed her in, we did everything we could, but she lost nearly 40% of her ability to speak, all because she let a few minutes slip by. You see, sometimes just a tiny delay can change how a person walks, speaks, or lives for the rest of their life. I'm not telling you this to scare you, but to help you understand how important it is to react immediately. In medicine, we have a saying that I believe every older adult should remember. The first few minutes determine the rest of your life. If blood can't reach the brain, nerve cells, The tiny lights that control memory, emotions, speech, and movement begin to shut down. And when they shut down, the price you pay is often your independence. You don't want to wake up one day needing help for everything just because you ignored a few crucial minutes, right? What gives me hope is that modern science shows something remarkable. Simple stabilizing actions, lying down correctly, breathing deeply, and keeping the body relaxed can reduce brain damage by up to 4%. 40%. That's not a small number. That could be the difference between being able to walk again or needing a wheelchair, between talking to your grandkids normally or struggling to put words together. So I want you to think about this. If one small action in the first few minutes could protect almost half of your brain function, would you do it? I believe you would. Because the fact that you're watching this means you care about your health and you want to live a life that's active, independent, and dignified. I'm sharing this not just as a doctor, but as someone who's seen far too many regrets. If there's one message I could leave with you, it's this: when your body speaks, act immediately. Sometimes, your quick response today is the greatest gift you can give your future self. Now, I want to tell you about a technique I teach many of my older patients, something small, simple, but incredibly valuable. In many emergencies, it buys precious minutes before paramedics arrive. It's called the blood shift maneuver. It sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. So simple you can do it instantly, even if you're completely alone. Picture this. You're at home, maybe in the living room, maybe in the kitchen. Suddenly your hand starts shaking. Your speech feels a little off. Your vision blurs for a moment. You're not sure what just happened. A part of you wants to get up and walk around to see if it gets better. But that's the most dangerous thing you could do. If those are warning signs of a stroke, the very first thing you should do is not walk, not look for medicine, but protect yourself from falling and help your brain get as much blood as possible. Step 1. Sit or lie down immediately. Many people try to wait and see if the symptoms go away, but your body is sounding an alarm like a fire alarm going off. The smartest thing you can do is stop everything. I remember a patient named Raymond, 75 years old. The first time his left arm felt weak. He tried to walk to the phone in another room. He got only a few steps before collapsing and hitting his head on the table. A minor stroke turned into major brain damage, all because of that fall. That's why the first step of the blood shift maneuver is simple: sit or lie down right away. Step 2. Lie on your back and raise your legs about 12 inches, around 30 centimeters. Why raise your legs? Because when you lie on your back and lift your legs, gravity helps push blood back toward your heart and up to your brain. Think of your blood vessels like a system of pipes. When your brain is running low on blood, any extra support helps. This doesn't cure a stroke. Nothing can do that instantly, but it buys time. It prevents the brain from deteriorating too quickly. And in those first few minutes, every second counts. I had a patient, Joanne, 62, who did this perfectly when she was alone at home when the paramedics arrived. The nurse told her she was in far better condition than most stroke patients they see. She told me, "David, I remembered what you taught me. Lie down, lift my legs. I just kept thinking, stay awake until they get here." And she did. Step 3. Breathe. Using the 4-2-6 rhythm. Everybody breathes, but breathing correctly in a moment of panic is a completely different story. When you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, and exhale for 6 seconds, you're doing 3 important things. Stabilizing your blood pressure, preventing sudden spikes or drops that can make the situation worse. 2. Increasing oxygen flow to the brain, helping your brain stay functional during a critical moment. 3. Reducing panic, because panic can raise your heart rate, trigger adrenaline, and make your blood pressure swing unpredictably. And the strange thing is, just a few proper breaths can make you clearer, calmer, and more in control of what's happening. I remember a patient named Alice. She told me, when I started breathing the way you taught me, I felt myself calming down. I knew I was in a race against time, but I wasn't afraid anymore. And when you're less afraid, your body is less tense. That calmness protects the brain while you're waiting for paramedics. The blood shift maneuver doesn't treat a stroke, but it gives you the time you need to be treated. I want you to understand that clearly. This technique is not magic. It doesn't replace medication or doctors, but it buys you survival time that, in many cases, decides whether you'll speak normally again, walk again, or even survive the stroke at all. Many people are alive today because they managed to do these 3 steps during the very first minutes. And finally, I want to ask you a question. I ask almost every patient, have you ever prepared for the moments you never expect? If your answer is no, then start by remembering these 3 small steps, because someday, they might protect you or someone you love. You know, after decades of treating older adults, there's something that still troubles me. Most of my patients did notice the early signs of a stroke, but they didn't act. Not because they weren't smart, not because they didn't understand the risks, but because they're human. And humans rely on habit. I want you to think back to a moment in your own life. Have you ever felt dizzy? Had numbness in your hand? Or felt your speech slur for a moment and told yourself, it'll probably go away in a minute. I'm just tired today. It's just age catching up. Have you ever done that? I'm not asking to blame you. I'm asking because that is exactly how millions of people lose their precious early warning minutes. So many older adults in America, people who've lived through decades of challenges, have a habit I jokingly call the tough it out instinct. They're strong, sometimes a little too strong. They're used to pain, used to stiffness, used to their bodies slowing down, and because of that, when stroke symptoms show up, they don't see them as unusual. One, I can handle it. It'll go away soon. I remember a man named Harold, age 74. He felt numbness on half his face for about 45 seconds. His daughter wanted to call 911, but he waved her off and said, I've lived 7 decades. This little spell is nothing. He said it with pride, the pride of someone who's weathered many storms in life. 2 weeks later, he had a real stroke. I still remember him lying in the hospital bed, holding my hand and saying, I wish I hadn't ignored the first time. That's the tragedy of toughness. It blinds us to the truth our body is trying to tell us. 2, it's probably just old age. There's something I've learned after turning 60 myself. Not everything that happens as we get older is just part of aging. Sudden dizziness, brief facial drooping, slurred speech for a few seconds. These are not harmless, these are warnings. But many patients confuse the unusual with the familiar. They think weak arms mean they didn't exercise enough. They think slurred speech is because their mouth is dry. They think blurry vision is because their glasses need replacing. And that confusion, mistaking danger for normal aging, is exactly what cost them the few critical minutes they needed. 3, nobody is mentally prepared for a stroke. The truth is, stroke isn't something people talk about over dinner. No one sits around saying, if I suddenly lose feeling on one side of my body for 30 seconds, what will I do? No one plans for it. No one rehearses what to do. And when the warning signs appear quick, subtle, almost whisper-like, people panic. They hesitate. They doubt themselves. It's like hearing a strange noise in your house. You don't know whether to respond or ignore it. I once asked a patient, right after we stabilized her, why didn't you call 911 right away? She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, Doctor, I didn't believe something like that could happen to me. I wasn't ready. That sentence stayed with me for years. A truth I want you to remember. A stroke doesn't wait for you to be ready. It arrives suddenly, without warning, without discrimination. And if you've ever had that tough-it-out personality, or mistaken symptoms for aging, or simply never believed you were at risk, then I hope you'll hear this from a doctor who has seen far too many regrets. Act when your body speaks. Don't let denial steal your future. Because sometimes, the moment you decide to call for help is the very moment you save your own life and protect the people who love you. You know, throughout my years as a doctor, I've realized something we all understand, but few truly practice when we panic. The brain doesn't think clearly. And with stroke, even a few seconds of panic can slow you down right at the moment you need to move the fastest. That's why I always tell my older patients, practice your response, rehearse the situation, teach your body what to do before the real emergency happens. Let me help you picture something. If you've ever participated in a fire drill at work, you know the feeling of practicing so you won't freeze. People walk the route, open doors with the left hand, keep low, follow the exit signs. It feels silly in the moment, but when a real fire happens, those silly actions save lives. Stroke is the same. I once had a patient named Eleanor, age 70, an incredibly cautious woman. After watching her best friend suffer a stroke, she made a commitment to herself. She practiced her reflexes every month. She told me I lay down, lifted my legs, breathed 4-2-6. I went through each step until my body could do it without thinking. A year later, when she had a transient ischemic attack, she reacted so quickly and calmly that the paramedics said, if everyone stayed this calm, we'd save a lot more people. You see, a practiced reflex keeps panic from taking over. I often tell my patients, practice in front of a mirror, or practice with your family. Say the steps out loud, act them out. It's not superstition, it's not pessimism. It's preparation, just like carrying a raincoat when the forecast says it might rain. And your body, especially after age 50, will thank you for it. Because when the emergency comes, you won't be fighting fear. You'll simply follow what you've already trained. Ask yourself this: if half my face suddenly went numb for 20 seconds, would I know exactly what to do if the answer isn't completely certain? Then start today. Just a few minutes of practice every month can help you stay calm, stay safe, and sometimes protect the entire rest of your life. You know, when people talk about stroke, most focus only on the emergency, the golden minutes, the steps to take right away. But after decades working with older adults, I've learned something important. What protects us the most isn't just how fast we react, it's how we live every day. Preventing stroke doesn't come from dramatic changes, it comes from small, steady habits. Quiet, things repeated daily like raindrops smoothing the edge of a sharp stone. 3-minute morning reset, 3 minutes to wake up your whole day. I want you to picture tomorrow morning. You wake up, and instead of jumping out of bed, you pause for a moment. Just 3 minutes. You take a slow, deep breath, the kind that feels warm and steady. As if it's waking up every cell in your lungs, you gently stretch your calves, letting the blood start to move, letting your heart know a new day has begun. You roll your neck, loosen your shoulders, and feel the joints open and soften. Each movement takes only a few seconds, but many of my patients tell me it feels like they're oiling the entire machine of their body. And that's exactly what your body needs after hours of lying still: a gentle kickstart to your circulation. A warm glass of water, a small action that isn't small at all. One of my longtime patients, Mr. James, now 82, always says, "Doctor, that warm glass of water in the morning reminds me that I'm alive and that I want to stay healthy." Warm water wakes up the body. It thins the blood just a little. It helps your circulation start the day smoothly. It's not medicine. It doesn't cure anything. But it's the body's gentlest alarm clock. The Mediterranean way of eating like someone who wants to live long. When I was younger, I spent time in the Mediterranean studying community health. What surprised me most wasn't the hospitals or the technology, it was their food. Fresh fish, dark leafy greens, beets red like a beating heart, and a little square of dark chocolate just enough to enjoy, not enough to overwhelm. These foods aren't magic, but they nourish the blood vessels, keep cholesterol steady, and give the brain a clean, steady source of energy. A large number of studies show the Mediterranean diet can lower the risk of stroke and support recovery after one. Move gently, breathe steadily, the way to keep the brain sharp. I never tell my older patients to run marathons. Honestly, many people only need 10 to 15 minutes of light movement a day to change their health. Slow, steady exercises paired with calm breathing help the heart pump more efficiently and deliver blood to the brain more consistently. Anyone can start, even from that familiar living room chair. Stress management, the small detail that is actually the core. Have you ever noticed on stressful days, your heart beats faster, your head hurts more, your sleep gets lighter? Stress is like acid rain, tiny drops. But over time, they wear your body down. Listening to soft music, walking under the morning sun, talking with someone you love, 5 minutes of quiet meditation. These don't just calm your mind, they relax your blood vessels, steady your blood pressure, and soften your heartbeat. I always tell my patients, stress reduction isn't just so you live longer, it's so you live more comfortably. Why do these small habits matter so much? Because they help. Improve circulation every single day. Lower the risk of another stroke for those who've had one. Strengthen the brain's ability to recover and keep neurons working their best. None of this is complicated or expensive. But these simple habits become the quiet shield that protects the brain that has carried you through decades of life. After all my years as a doctor, after thousands of hours at hospital bedsides, witnessing both fear and recovery, there's one truth I want to whisper to you today. Stroke is never truly sudden. The body always sends warnings. The question is, are we paying attention? I want you to imagine these everyday moments you're cooking, and suddenly your hand trembles. You're mid-conversation, and your words come out slightly blurred. You're walking, and for a split second your vision dims as if a thin veil dropped over the world. These signals aren't random. It's your body saying, I need your attention. My brain isn't getting enough blood. Help me now. And if that moment ever comes, I want you to remember 3 things as naturally as breathing. Don't panic. Lie down, lift your legs, breathe slowly. Those 3 simple actions can pull you back from that thin line between minor damage and life-changing consequences. They don't cure a stroke, but they buy you time. Precious time for emergency crews to arrive, time for your brain to avoid further injury, time for you to preserve your independence. I once met a 78-year-old woman named Margaret after recovering from a mini-stroke. She told me, "Doctor, I used to think, at my age, whatever happens just happens. But that day, I lay down, lifted my legs, and breathed slowly, just like you taught me. And I realized something: I still have the right to protect myself. I've never forgotten that. We can't fight aging, but we can walk alongside it wisely. And now, a final message for you, the person watching this video, the person who has lived through more than half a lifetime, who has faced enough pain, enough challenges, enough loss to understand the value of every single breath. Prepare yourself. Not to live in fear, but to live with control. Not to brace for the worst, but to protect what is most precious: your independence, your health, the time you still have. A stroke can be dangerous, but you are not powerless. When you learn to listen to your body and act quickly, you give yourself something priceless, a chance to keep living fully, clearly, and strongly. As we come to the end of today's video, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, if those warning signs appeared one day, would I be calm enough and prepared enough to save myself? Because stroke doesn't spare anyone. But the way you prepare can change everything. I truly believe every older adult deserves more time. Time to watch their grandchildren grow. Time to enjoy a bright morning. Time to live slowly but meaningfully. And all of that begins with understanding what your body is trying to tell you. If you learned something new today, or if you simply feel a little more at ease about stroke, I hope you won't keep it to yourself. Many of my patients avoided tragedy because of one piece of information shared at the right moment. So if this video helped you, please hit like so the algorithm can bring it to more older adults. Share it with your friends, your siblings, anyone you want to keep safe. And if you want more gentle, practical, and honest health advice from a doctor who's walked with older adults for more than 3 decades, be sure to subscribe. You're not just supporting me, you're helping create a ripple effect, a community that listens to their bodies, prevents what they can, and chooses to live healthy on purpose. Thank you for spending your time here. I wish you strength, peace, and the wisdom to protect yourself. We'll meet again in the next video.